Okay, I think we've covered this in past videos, but I still think it's worth showing again. One of the favorite setups that we have for an early morning setup, in other words, pre-market actually, is where we try to find this idea. ALKS, here's the symbol right here, gave a perfect one today. What you have and what we look for in the pre-market, okay, is a stock that gapped up the previous day. Okay, I have taken out today's candle so far, but so this one gapped up yesterday, opening. This would be on Monday, opening at 8:34, but ended up closing down at 8:18 and put in a red candle. In other words, so that's part of the setup. What we're looking for is a gap up candle that closes red, and then the next day is set to open entirely above that. It seems to be a setup where we catch shorts off guard or get them in trouble. I guess anyone who shorted this and ended up winning as far as an intraday trade, as far as a short, but holding overnight. I'm not sure the dynamic behind it, but I've seen it work too many times to ignore. So we had this is part of the equation: the gap up, closing red, and then the next day set to open. You find it in the pre-market set to open above this entire day's candle. ALKS was set to open today on the pre-market. Before the open, we saw it ready to open around 860 something. Okay, now let me throw in today's candle to show you how well it worked. Look at that, gapped up. I guess like I said, you might have had shorts trapped, whatever, but then took off and then gave a really nice low risk intraday trade too. But I have to use 1 minute candles. Not a big fan of trading early, but when we get a setup like this, we already knew we had the gap up that we like. Okay. And so this was worth watching, and then using 1 minute candles. Let me scroll back to the left here. So basically for the first few minutes, this was the first opening minute here. You had an 866 high. It went down as low as 854 here, and then came back up. So you had an 867 trigger. In other words, if it breaks that early high, because it had a narrow range. Okay, remember its high was 866. Its low. And again, we're only 3 minutes in, but remember, we have that daily chart pattern we really like. We've got shorts caught. Its low was 854, so you're talking about a 12-cent range from its early high to early low. So when we have that kind of setup combined with that daily chart and the gap up, we'll buy a break of the first 2 or 3 minute high if we get a narrow range. So everything fell into place on ALKS. So 867 would have been the trigger here. In other words, it broke that early high because it had that narrow range. And literally like 6 minutes later, it's at 882. And then I can just zoom out here. Let me switch to fives. And from 887 pretty quickly to 912, and it ultimately went to 942. And that is with a stop at initial stop at 852. So real quickly again, remember the trigger, 867, 852. I had to do the math real quick there. 15-cent risk, and ended up getting that kind of pop. So just we wanted to share that setup with you. I love these red candles. Gap up, closes red, and then set to open the next day higher. And then if that combines with a low risk intraday setup, a pretty good recipe for a nice trade. And ALKS paid off pretty well today. We look to send out a free pick hopefully tonight. So look for a video on a free pick idea later tonight. Have a great night.